How did you launch him 80
You
feet
told
in
me
the air?
to boat flip him!
I didn't tell you to launch him 78 feet in the air.
I flipped him in the boat, didn't I?
Send it to the moon.
I sent it! You said boat flip him!
Oh, yeah.
Do you fish? No. You know, people who don't fish think that fishing is lazy or boring, but it is the complete opposite. There are 100 little decisions to be made, variables to be considered, and you're never quite sure what made the difference. Did I cast too high, too far to the left? Did I reel it in too slow or too fast? Is the lure too shiny or too dull? Do I stay here or should I go over there? And you know it's not luck, but you do not know by how much. Because I am never, disappointed out here because I don't expect anything, because anything is possible. I can be hopeful out here, even in failure. Because I know if I just go out there around that tree, it might be different. Something might be different. Something I do might make a difference.
On my property, you didn't win shit in my yard.
Wait.
All of you.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Monday Night Live. How are we doing today? This first day of April. And for our kind of like April Fool's thing, I'm getting out of my comfort zone, which is talking about our local waterways, because we just got to talk about the craziness that's going on in the fishing industry. I just want to dip my toe into this. I guess advisory warning for everyone here. If you don't like to listen to about all this stuff, no worries. I promise you, we'll be going back to our normal broadcasting stuff as usual starting tomorrow. So do not worry about this. This is kind of a one-off. If you like it, great. If not, do not worry about it. We'll get back into our region. But it's been some crazy stuff. So I don't know what's going on really because I'm busy with all of you. So I wanted to bring on some heavy hitters in the industry in our local area to talk about this because Bassmasters have had some crazy stuff going on lately. And we also had some stuff going on with Major League Fishing, just drama upon drama upon drama. And a couple of fishing tournaments were actually won with fish being caught. So without further ado, let's bring into our first guest. He runs the Basscast. He's been on the last time we talked about drama. We talked about Icon boats, AKA, IKEA boats that were about $150,000 or the price of a country in Africa. We got the man, Brian Carter from the Basscast. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing great. Yourself? Thank you for having me on the show, man.
No, you're welcome.
I don't want to be known as the Doomsday guy. Okay, I mean, you have to get me on a different show. We don't want to be known as Doomsday, but we are big and heavy in the tournament scene. I mean, because that's what we do here at the Basscast.com. How
was the Bassmaster Classic, by the way?
I did not go. My team went. I went to Red Crest.
You went to Red Crest.
We had to break it up because of guys. I mean, it was. If I was free, I probably would have went because it wasn't but about 8 hours away from Birmingham, Alabama, where me and Danielle went for 4 days for Red Crest 2024. And I'll say this, Red Crest 2024 was a good event. I ain't gonna say great, but it was a good event. And I recommend it for anybody. I mean, it's, people say it was quiet. When, if you saw the photos, there wasn't a whole lot of people there. But the cool thing is, you could talk to Kevin Van Dam for like 10 minutes if you wanted. Nobody was there.
The one thing that's interesting, and this is a whole segment, if I had to write a obituary for Major League Fishing in 100 years, it was great ideas that were just badly executed, but they were good ideas. And even the day off in between, so you can meet pros and you could do stuff for your sponsors. It's like, all right, that's an interesting pitch meeting in a TV show. I like that. I don't know. We will definitely get to that, but we have another guy that's backstage. I talked to him a little bit beforehand here. He runs the Cat series, and if I'm mistaking anything, Mark, please let me know here. But Mark he's the tournament director for the North Carolina Cat organization. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, sir. James River Cat. It's under Carolina Angler Team Trail. We're the James River division.
We have a lot of fun stuff. We have a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight, and I really want to get caught up with it and make sure that we can kind of let everyone do a timetable here of what's happening. And just to kind of get into the meat of it, I guess, without further ado, and Brian, maybe you can really set up this timeline. The first thing that really hit off was Brian New and the Bassmasters. Could you give a little insight, just the background leading up? What happened there? Yeah,
it was during practice. I mean, Brian he did something stupid and got caught. That's exactly what happened. I mean, another angler saw him stir up a bed. You guys all know it's bedding season time right now. And, he just did it so the fish, no one would be able to practice there. I mean, pretty much that's what it is. I mean, he eliminated a practice spot for another angler to fish. And I went and looked it up. It's a angler code of conduct. It's on their Bassmaster website because they really did hide this whole entire thing. I'll be honest, guys, if it wasn't for Brian New's video, we'd have never heard nothing. Ain't that right? Nothing about what happened. Unless you really want to scroll on Bassmaster's website, I mean, because it was deep underneath there, and it was 2 paragraphs. Brian New broke a rule, conduct, and it really, as always, I don't know if the reason why nobody can bring up what they did. But the video, what Brian New said, he was DQ'd, the reason why, and he went ahead and got ahead of the press release that was coming out.
And so basically he used his trolling motor to blow out the bed. I want to make sure that I'm not doing drama, or that is actually what happened, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the thought there is by blowing out one bed, he was going to prevent someone else from catching it. Was this actually a strategy, or is he just frustrated with this other person in his area?
That's a great question right there. I mean, it was mainly so no one else could practice before the line was cut off. I guess that's what it is. I mean, I haven't looked back enough at that. We've had enough going on with Watson to.
And that's, it's hard to know what exactly is going on with New, with the distraction of what's going on with Watson and MLF. And I agree 100%. But I mean, he admitted to what he did, and he stated why he did what he did. But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it would be so far down the radar on things, but I mean, I guess I would say the biggest reason is publicity. When you're looking at the difference in the situations, like Bass has a way of handling things it's said none, whereas MLF has a way of handling things that could be said, whatever. But, Bass has been around a long time, and I think it's a testament to their time, how they run things.
And we'll definitely we will spend a lot of time with MLF, believe that.
But to get to what I don't want to interrupt, but to get what you're saying there, when the press release came out for Brian New, it said the Bass Council had made a decision.
They buried it.
Well, they buried it, yes. But at the same time, there's a council there that actually made the decision, whether they buried it or not. I don't think Major League Fishing has a council. I think it's just one person making all the decisions. I really don't know. Because you never hear about it.
I swear I can't. I'd have to go back and watch it again, but I swear I've heard James Watson say they have a group. I swear I've heard him say that in the podcast with Luke Duncan, to be exact. Okay. Is that I think they have like a little group, but my bad.
Yeah, no, we got Craig on here. He's got a good question. Here we go. He said, I heard he used his big motor too. He knew he had been seen, so he went back within a half hour to pretend he was going to fish there again. Again, this is all hearsay. If you want to go just see the video from New, we unless there's GoPro footage, we just have to take his word on it. To me, the interesting thing here is I break things down because this is a sport in general, and it's things that happen off the field controversy and in the field controversy. The biggest grievance would be something like what the Astros did, where they were blatantly cheating to win a ring. 100% that was on the field drama. Yep. Off the field drama would be like, there was a wide receiver that was well known that got in a shouting match with Goodell, and he got suspended for it. Nothing to do with the field of play. Well, what just happened a day ago is Juan Ramirez for the New York Mets, who's a reliever, he got a 3-game suspension because he intentionally threw at a batter that he had a beef with.
Wow.
The big issue there is Ramirez is from the baseball culture of like, this is normal. You do this. But he made it very public with how he expressed like, okay, this is the unwritten rule. You do this. The point of an unwritten rule is you don't bring attention to it and you shut up about it. Otherwise, it's an issue. And I think with the Brian New thing, it's kind of where it is. Like maybe in fishing, you're allowed to do this, but you don't bring attention to it because it doesn't look good.
Yeah. Like I said, there was another podcast show that, he was actually there watching and, caught the video and, he reported the issue. So, I mean, it is what it is. And it's a bonehead, stupid decision. And this kind of gets back to my show a week ago. And we were talking about camaraderie in sports. And it's the same with, you guys all know, my family's big in NASCAR. This thing got so daggone expensive now. Like we talked about the $180,000 bass boats and then released a $200,000 bass boat, the Classic.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We are doing whatever we can do to pay the bills
with night vision.
Yeah, night
And
vision.
I was shocked at the $110,000 boat I saw at the Richmond Expo. I was like, golly day.
But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Though we're it's no more camaraderie in it anymore. It's we're doing whatever we can do to cash a check because we got to cash a check because we got a $800 boat payment now for 25 years.
We are, and it's so freaking that's so freaking interesting because I feel like the industry is constricting. We're seeing this every day. That's why I think there's more drama right now with the social media aspect.
Yes.
And so they're claiming they just want all those view dollars. I have a real beef with what Zaldane did with that video when the Toledo Bend thing came out, because that Japanese angler, if you watch the whole video, he's in it for like 3 seconds, and he only put him on the thumbnail because he won. And if you watch the interaction between those two, it's just uncomfortable. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't speak the language. And I feel like kind of like it was, I personally think it was a little unethical personally for the clickbaits. Like, pick on an American angler that gets it, but him was just, it was just weird.
Yeah.
But it's for the clicks, you know?
Yep. But I mean, it's, you know, it's just got crazy. It really has. And you guys, I guess you've seen, we got a tournament coming up in Mark, like a week or two or something like that. That's a non-forward facing Sonar tournament that this guy has put together. He's a rich dude. He got a lot of daggone money, and you know, trying to get back to the basics because, like you said, people are kind of upset, pissed off, and you wonder if it'll ever trickle down to where it gets back to. And you're right, it's not, but people are dropping out left and right, guys. Tournament fishing.
I can tell you 100% on the level. You know, there's levels to this, and that's, you know, the one thing I try to remember, you know, so Bass is on one level, MLF is on another level. You know, if we're talking about regional, you know, there is a well-known tournament trail that was established that is on the highest level I think you're going to get, which is the Elite 70 Alpha. So I don't know what Steve Camp may have ever heard, but I've never heard anything about forward-facing sonar. Nobody's ever asked me a question about it. My knowledge on forward-facing sonar is very limited. I've only messed with it a handful of times. You know, if guys want to do that, they can. But the problem is, just like everything in life, things evolve. We evolve, we grow, things change. And whether you like it or not, it's the truth of the matter is that as we advance or as we move forward, we're going to make advancements that, you know, it's just change. And, you know, if the guys want to have a no forward-facing sonar tournament, they can. You know, like I'm not against it or for it. It's just, to me, it's another thing that just creates drama. And, you know, I hope that guy has success with the no forward-facing sonar tournament. I'll definitely be paying attention to it because I'd like to see how it goes down. But yeah, man, like I was saying in that post, man, it's not like it used to be in the fishing world anymore. 100%. You know, it's literally in a matter of less than 10 years, we've gotten to where we are today. You know, as far as technology goes.
Mark, it's funny because, you know, a lot of the guys that, you know, I'm hanging out with at tournaments and at events are saying we're fishing like we did 5 years ago. And for some reason, we're being dummies and still fishing that way, and we're getting our butts kicked.
Well, and this is something that I brought up last week on, I think it was a Patreon version. In 2005, Humminbird released their side scan technology. And in 2006, Twitter was actually created. And in 2008, Alton Jones won the classic down, I think it was at Hartwell, using side scan to find those trees. And then there was a ton of uproar amongst the fishing community when that technology came out. The difference is social media was literally just created. Now, fast forward to the hyperbolic Twitter, you know, metaverse thing that we're in now, everything gets cranked up to 11. And I just said, I cannot tell if you look back in history, how much of this is worse just because of the technology and how much of it has just been magnified by social media. If social media was as hot as it was back in 2008 when Alton Jones won the classic with side scan, would it have been just as hot? Why wouldn't it have been just as hot? I don't know.
Brian, hold on. So today I heard Luke's Oh man, I don't know who he had. I can't remember who he had on there, but they had mentioned something about all this, about guys that had an opinion, or people that had an
Right.
opinion about forward facing sonar. He made a good point, man. A lot of times it's a scheduling thing.
Oh, 100%
Like,
agree.
Oh yeah. Yes.
so
Yeah, I've said that.
it's like, so again, regionally to Virginia, like Lake Anna or Smith Mountain. You and I talked. I've never been to Smith Mountain. I want to go, but I can only imagine forward facing sonar takes you a lot farther there than it would on the James River, if you will, on a river tidal
Oh,
system.
yeah.
I could be wrong.
compared to, yeah.
So
No, you're right.
Yeah.
a lot of it has to do with location. A lot of it has to do with scheduling. Like when we go up north, when those guys go to fish for smallmouth, you're going to hear some complaining, but I promise you, a lot of the guys you hear complaining are going to be looking down when they're fishing. They're going to be.
Yeah.
I think a lot of
That's
it.
what it was last year.
And this is funny too, because when
What
you look
about
at the
flogging?
comments,
Remember flogging when that became a
Yes.
problem with?
And they did it last year as well.
Yes, they
and it's
did.
interesting because when you look
Yes.
at the comment section of the Toledo Bend, the Lake Fork things, it was never really bashing bass. It was bashing forward facing sonar. But if it was Major League Fishing, they'd be bashing Major League Fishing. And to me, it's like you have to understand bass. You have to understand the greater magnification of the issues that are here. That because of the tightening of sponsorship dollars, because they're not owned by ESPN, because it's not in this booming economy, they do need this. It just is what it is. Like they need Garmin. And so when you see these people in these comment sections, they're like, just get rid of Garmin or Lowrance. It's like, have you thought the next two steps ahead what that means? So let's keep that in context here for what we're talking about. Now, with that said, why are you having a tournament at Toledo Bend that time of year when you know it'll play, which gets to your point? You know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah. You were talking about the sponsorship, the scheduling, but you're talking about sponsorship dollars. And we go back to NASCAR when they got rid of Winston Cup and brought in US Cellular, and they brought in Sprint, and then they brought in all those. And we were, they were extremely scared that, because Sprint, I mean, Winston was like huge. I mean, millions of dollars they put into racing back in the day. And it's the same now with the electronics. The boat dealers that are putting all the money into these tournament series and these tournament trails, you wonder if there's enough money in the bank that if you were to cut one of them and say, okay, I'm going to, do away with one of the sponsors, could they continue to make it on after they released one of these major sponsors? Because, I mean, NASCAR did it. They suffered for a little while and then,
what NASCAR did well, and this is where you have to blame Bass and FLW because MLF wasn't a thing back then, is when, let's say, Side Scan in 2005 came out, you should have been like NASCAR, been forward projecting. We need to think about putting in limitations now.
Yes.
Just like NASCAR did before this genie got out of the bottle.
Yes.
I forget, and maybe the comment section, you guys can tell me more about the NASCAR history, but there were certain events that said, like, we need to put restrictions in now. I'm pretty sure it was a death or two that caused it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But that's what's got to happen.
I mean, it's the same with the umbrella rig. I mean, they didn't waste any time with the daggone umbrella rig. I mean, my goodness, it was very, very little time. It's like it's banned.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
I remember when that first came out too. I was
and Brian New was the main sponsor of that umbrella rig too.
It was Diacetyl Reservoir
With
was
Shane
the first
Bates.
time I ever threw it.
It is interesting. Yeah.
And that thing drew opinions just like forward facing sonar. I mean, it went so bad that states had to put sanctions on it. You know what I mean? Like, and to a degree, let's be honest, we're talking about one lure with multiple hooks and this, that, and the other. I've heard guys like, well, a treble hook has 3 hooks, so a crankbait has 6. And I'm like, all right, well, you know what I mean? Like,
yep, that's a shitty argument. I mean, like, okay, you're not going to catch one fish per each treble hook. Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I know. And to me, it's
rare.
Yeah.
Again, it kind of goes to I'll have this opinion about all things that deal with all the dramas. It's just drama. And if you can make a mountain out of a molehill and it'll draw attention and they'll get, like you were saying, social media clicks, they'll get likes, they'll get shares. And I mean, like I told Brian, I don't think a lot of people truly understand what it's like to be a content creator and what you have to. It's not just, doing like what we're doing. It's not just, for me, it kind of is, because thank you guys for allowing me to come on. But, I'm out here at the back of my truck in my front yard. You guys have studios. So y'all put a lot of time and effort. And I think that gets looked over by the general fans, if you will, like I used to be, where I didn't have an inside look on what, not only, professional anglers, but content creators. Look at Ben Milliken. He's doing both at one time. There's a lot of things that the general public just doesn't think about with you guys or professional anglers or organizations. And to me, it's just sad that now, it used to be like when Ray Scott was at Bass, dude, and it was just Bass, really just Bass, they had to work their butts off to get to where they are. And now, no punt against Ben Milliken, because I am a big fan of his and I support him a lot. Actually, probably the only guy I support on the Patreon. But, that guy can fish, but he's also got it figured out. But he does know the fact that negativity sells quicker than positivity. And that's, that's kind of what's brought us here right now to talk about it. So,
yeah, and I would also say the issue would be, when you say about content creators, is how YouTube has clamped down on AdSense money. And so now you have a lot of people that, 6-7 years ago, I don't think there would be as much as drama. Maybe it's because I'm an optimist, because you were making more. You didn't have to just do clickbait shit.
Yeah, can I ask y'all a question? Can I ask you two a question? All right, so as a fisherman, say like 10 years ago, would it have been more beneficial for me to have started then to create a YouTube channel?
Yes.
To work the way till now?
Yep.
Or now let me ask you something. Would it have been more beneficial 2 years ago, when things were really spicy, to create a channel and start doing it? So that's what I'm asking. Is it easier now to just create a channel and go fishing and create some content and sell?
No.
Or
TikTok.
Go ahead.
TikTok. If it
As long
stays
as
around.
As long as it's here.
As long as it's here. As long as it doesn't get sent out of the country and packed bags and sent home. Social media is where it really is now. YouTube doesn't pay anymore like they used to. And it's kind of, you guys heard the shooting, and that's why, what was that? Good gosh, Thomas. Has that been like 10 years ago now, when it kind of started that whole downward spiral, and lady went in and she actually got pissed off because they cut her money in half from YouTube. And she went in and shot up the place, or shot up some people, or some mess like that. I don't remember the whole story. But yeah, YouTube does not pay what it used to pay anymore. And content creators now are having to diverse big time. And, even, podcast during COVID, if it wasn't for the podcast show, I probably wouldn't have had a diversification. So, I mean, you got to really be diversified these days if you're going to be on social media. So,
and just to, I don't want to go down. I could talk about this stuff for 6 hours straight. But it's also the value of what corporate America has been chasing YouTube and podcasts, because it's the next thing. Like brick and mortar TV is completely dead right now. Each person can be their own TV show, but they don't know how to value it. And 10 years ago, you would look at a guy that actually had, let's say, 50,000 people following him that were diehards, and they thought, like, that's insane numbers, because it technically is, because you can't fit 50,000 people in a movie theater. And so if you get a good percentage of them that will follow you, that's a good number. And so they were throwing money at like the Dude Perfect and people like that when they got started, which they had smaller followings. Then TikTok came in and nuked everything, because you can get 6 trillion views. That's a number I don't think a human brain can comprehend, but corporate's like, that's important. We don't have 6 trillion people in the United States. And so most of those views are empty calories, but it completely screwed up every other platform, because corporate is now saying, unless you have this many blank, it's not worth it. And so now everyone has to chase more and more views to get less and less money, if that kind of makes sense.
And you're working harder for it too.
Yeah.
I mean, you really are. I mean, you're selling your soul. You're selling your soul for it, to be honest. I mean, I hate to say that, because, it was just a few years ago, I was watching a YouTube video, and this guy said a company wouldn't even reach out to him unless he had 50,000 followers.
Yeah. I mean,
we're talking about you really, because they know now that, what do you think, Thomas? 5% of the 50,000, or maybe even 10, we're going to go high. that are actually real and are actually people who are following that actually purchase. So that's where it gets into. But yeah, that's another night. But yeah, I mean,
yeah. I mean, and that kind of like leads into what we were saying here with the social media and fishing is it is very matured with the almost the drama level now. And I told a friend yesterday, it kind of reminds me of other sports like the NBA or the NFL, where it's LeBron James gets on Twitter and says something because he's $1 billion player. And now I feel like there's a lot of fishermen that act like NFL stars. And it's like, and it's like, now, not all of them, not all the drama, but some of it is over the wintertime, especially like when Randy Blockett and Milliken met on YouTube, the big throwdown. It's like, oh, come on, guys, really? And it's funny because
they handled that very well. I think they
did.
both handled that very well. They were both very, Ben, if you see this, you were quite the adult. You really were.
But yeah, you're right, man. I mean, social media, I mean, guys, go to the basscast.com's Facebook page right now. I wrote a story last night, dropped it about 7:00, and it was Watson versus Boyd. And then the press release and just what happened underneath it. We're talking about like about 50 comments underneath each one, maybe even more. I have to go look. But I mean, it's now where your opinion matters, and all you got to do is say that, and it's going to blow up. I mean, you know, everybody's got their thoughts and opinions, and this thing's been gone crazy.
And give you guys like my point of view on that is, you know, a lot of people go, well, the content creators are the problem, or social. Whereas I believe really social media is the problem, because the content creator could be NBC or Fox, in my opinion.
Right.
Because that's where we get our news from. A lot of times, man, a lot of podcasts, that's where I get my news from, believe it or not. As silly as that may sound, but, you know, at the end of the day, you know, looking at like what Ben Milliken said, and you guys tapped on that, you know, and that was my point in the question, was 2 years ago, because we're talking about COVID. I truly believe, and I'm not trying to bring that, you know, the big bad word, but, you know, when we were going through that, before that, I can't really recall this much drama. It was bigger, if you will, if somebody broke the rules, you know, with BASS, etc. It was a bigger deal. You know, now that we're beyond that and everything, as far as, you know, like we were talking about technology, you know, these corporations that have bought into these, you know, smaller, you know, companies, and you're talking about like one megacorp owns, like Ben Milliken said, you know, all these other companies, it's become that way now. And I've noticed that, you know, I'm not looking to gain sponsorship, but as a tournament director, I've tried, and no, I have not heard it has anything to do with social media or anything like that. But you can, if you just sit back and you stay quiet and you pay attention to the company at hand, and you watch what they do on social media, it speaks differently. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that to be, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but if you kind of just sit back and just watch and don't engage, which has been, you know, when we touch on MLF, I'll give you my opinion on James Watson on how I would have done this, but I've learned kind of taking a step back and being the owl on the branch and watching will teach you a lot more than if you do engage and you jump in. But, you know, I digress on that. But, you know, that's been a big question for me, is because a lot of people, they give an opinion or they comment, and I've done it. You know, I'm more of a retaliator when I see somebody make a comment. But
and it's just passion. I mean, you know, the whole origin for my show was I was in my NBA class and I was listening to the Junkies with the Redskins, and they were bitching about their defense for the 500th time because the Redskins can't stop shit when it's in the 5-yard zone. And it's like, well, and I forgot who said it, but it's like, oh, these people are just hating. It's like, no, they're just passionate fans. Yeah. And a lot of the comments there, you have to understand that it is passion too. There are malicious actors 100%, but it's people being passionate about a sport. Instead of football, it's bass fishing.
It's true. And it's a lot of money in it. It's not, you know, it's the, you know, social media has really been a downfall of the whole entire country. I hate to say that. I mean, it really has. I mean, you know, it's a lot of dirty laundry is aired on social media, and it really has been a downfall for everything. I mean, we're recording crap that you never saw before on people putting it on social media like it's funny, and fights in schools and all this other crap that's taking place in the world today. And it really has been kind of a downfall. I mean, it really has.
Yeah.
And now with everything in bass fishing, rule breakage and the problems we've had there, I mean, it's like you said, some people passion, some people are a lot of BS.
Antagonizing.
It really is. We got a great question here, Ricky Falk. Or this is more of a statement. My apologies. Now, the opens and the elites, the tournaments go to places who pays Bass the money. They want to come there, and Virginia did not put the money out to bring Bass here. I think two things can be true at once. Yes, that is correct. Virginia doesn't want the money there, but I also think it's a flawed system. Too.
I can answer that question. I was there. They lost their ass. The two counties went into it together, Franklin and I want to say Bedford, and they lost their ass. They didn't know how to promote it. They did not have a team to promote when Bass was here. And it pretty much, I ain't going to say it made zero, but I don't think they ever made their money completely back from both times that Bass was here. Because I started the Basscast 6 months to a year before Bass showed up here on Smith Mountain Lake, and Kevin Van Dam won one of them, and Skeet Reese won another one. Was a big old swim bait, but they lost their butt. And yes, the opens came last year to Bugs, still in Virginia, guys, but it did great. I mean, they knew how to promote it. They had the locations. We just don't have the facilities on Smith Mountain Lake. You got one hotel and a bunch of little.
That would be a good one. That would be a good one.
And you got a bunch of little dinky rink motels and stuff to stay in, or and also 08 and 09, we didn't have Airbnb.
Yeah,
we didn't have a lot of that stuff that we have now, which probably would have made it a little bit better, but at the same time, the town did not know how to market this event. They never had anything beside like a little state fair come, where you're talking about professional anglers showing up at Smith Mountain Lake. I told everybody my opinion on that. Smith Mountain Lake is a great lake. I'd love to see them come back, but I think it would have to be a classic. Lynchburg, and we all know that they don't mind driving 45 minutes to an hour, and even an hour and a half from some tournaments to weigh fish. And man, we got Liberty University here. We could host it there. They got a big arena. They just built another big arena. We got a crap load of motels here. I hate to say it. I don't want to give Roanoke any plugs because there ain't much there. It's falling down and it's rough. But I'd be scared my boat be stolen. But that's not the point. But I mean, that's what it's probably going to take. But I mean, they brought the Big Bass Tour here about, gosh, how long has it been? Probably about 8-10 years ago now. At least 10 years. And it sells out every time. We are their Big Bass Tour's #1 location. I was told by the team, Mark again, that they were we were the first one to have 2 events on Smith Mountain Lake. A spring and a fall Big Bass Tour event. We were the first time they ever did that because we had so many anglers coming to fish Smith Mountain Lake from New York to Maryland to Virginia, West Virginia. They come from everywhere.
Here's a good question. Here we go. Brandon says, what about the BPT or Tackle Warehouse Tour going to Smith? That's interesting. I don't know about that.
Yeah, that would be really.
I don't know anything about that region. I mean, Brian, what do you?
Yeah, that would, like I said, with the new technology of the Airbnbs and all the other stuff that we have out now, I could see it happening. But they still don't have we have one hotel, a couple of rinky-dink hotels. Other than that, you have to drive 45 minutes to an hour to get to a good hotel.
What do you think the bank loan on a building a motel is? I might have to get into a new business. Might have to come out there and start putting some motels up on the lake.
Yeah, no joke. No, they wouldn't want it. You can hang it up. That's us right here in Central Virginia. They wouldn't want that at all. But I mean,
go ahead.
I think it would do great. I mean, we get the college. We get the college kids here. They show up at Smith Mountain Lake. We got a I didn't say open. Good gosh, we got a FLW event on Smith Mountain Lake this weekend. So I mean, you know, I think they would do great. But Bugs was awesome because Bugs for the Bassmaster Open, you got 2 motels there. 30 minutes up the road, you got about 10, and another 30 minutes up the road, you got about another 5 or 10. So I mean, it was plenty of locations for people to stay. That's our problem. I mean, I hate to say it, guys, it really is.
But it just stinks because
we've done so much work on that lake to put them tiger bass in there.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it pay off. I mean, we've almost had a 10-pounder, guys. Yeah. And I want to I'll break it right here on my show, on your show, Thomas, not my show. If there is a 10-pound bass caught in a Bass Cast tournament series this year on my scales, our sponsor, SML Tackle Shack, will give away a $500 gift card.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. I love hearing stuff like that with the tournament trails.
Yes, he wants to see a 10-pounder. We had a 9, I think it was a 9.8 last year come across the scales. So, I mean, if we get a 10-pounder, it's $500 card guaranteed.
You said I'm welcome to come out there, right?
Yes. Fish with the Bass Cast, everybody.
You know, my opinion on them, you know, these bigger format tournaments, man, and maybe it's because we just got hammered with it on the river, last year and the year before. It just felt like during the summertime, there was a larger format, you know, be it BASS, MLF or what have you. You know, having that break is not a bad thing, in my opinion. You know, what I tell a lot of guys, my opinion about when those style tournaments come into town, it's awesome for the local talent. It gives them a chance to kind of build their platform, if you will. But, you know, that's a lot, you know, on the James and the Chick and the Appomattox, you know, like that's a lot of pressure. And, you know, that place was getting pounded, you know, weekend after weekend. And I mean, the argument now states is that there's a tournament on the river every single weekend. I don't know how it is with Smith Mountain, but they're not lying. I can honestly tell you, I truly believe there is a tournament 52 weekends, you know, every single weekend out of the year, you know, be it Osborne all the way down to, you know, the Brickyard or Rockahawk. So,
but that's just 2024 because the Potomac River is the same way. Gunnersville, like any place that is big enough to hold tournaments is going to be like that. Sadly,
there's too much money in it now. I mean,
there's too much money in it, and then this is the one thing I hate about the whole system. About you have to get paid to go there, when the system should be set up to where you're just going to go to the best fisheries. Period. And that's when, you know, back in the day with FLW, you were going to go to Beaver Lake. And now,
we
have the St. Lawrence
I
River.
forgot all about Beaver Lake.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same exact thing. I haven't heard that forever.
Yeah, I heard that in a while.
Because they paid. And the St. Lawrence is basically Beaver Lake, except it doesn't suck. But they're going to keep going there because they get paid. And that's, I don't know. It's like, it's an issue when it comes to the fact that Bass or MLF or any organization are supposed to be about conservation, but you will beat up on the James River for 200 years straight. And then you have a fishery that, let's say we did invest $1 million to make Smith really good. You should at least, if you're Bass or whatever organization, acknowledge the work that was done there and then offer whether it gets accepted. It's just, that's the right thing to do because it's going to force these wildlife agencies to put money into their fisheries. That's what you want.
You get mentioned in the magazine as the top 100 lakes in Virginia. I mean, 100 lakes in the USA to fish.
That they'll never go to because Clear Lake has been #1, God knows how long, but they're never going back.
You know, guys, you guys are talking about that. I mean, Major League Fishing's coming back, and it'll be on the James River this year, and it's going to be the Bass Pro Series this year. So, I mean,
they're also going to another place, right? A new place.
So down in North Carolina, kind of swapped.
When are they coming to the James?
You won't have the Tackle Warehouse invitation. Well, it ain't invitational. I guess it's invitationals. You won't have Tackle Warehouse series there this year, but you'll have the Major League Fishing guys that are coming this year.
When is the MLF on the James?
I'd have to look that up, to be honest.
I can't. I'm on my phone. I go inside, man, but my kids are wild, dude. They're still hyped up on Easter candy. I'm not lying, man. It's like 25 rubber bands bound as tight as they can bound in each one of them kids right now if I go inside that house. But I mean,
I will say, so it's called okay, guys, you guys, Chowan River, the Chawanian.
Chawan.
That's at least
Yeah,
something new. Like I've never heard of that place before.
I've heard of it a little bit, but it's I don't know a lot. I ain't gonna lie, I don't know a lot about it. But yeah, when is the James tournament? Is it James Potomac? It is James though, right? Yeah, it's James going out of Osborne Landing, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yippers.
Is the
Tackle Warehouse Tour, right? I can pull the schedule up now.
No, it's the Major League Fishing. It's the Bass Pro Series.
so it's the pros. It's not like a co-angler situation.
No,
I didn't think so.
so yeah, they're coming and
June 25th through the 30th.
There you go. That's when they're coming. I will be there, guys. I'm going to be there for probably the last couple of days. I'm not going to stay for the whole. I'm not going to take vacation time for the whole thing, but I plan on making up there at least for the final 2 rounds.
If you go, I'll go.
All right, I'll be there. I've already planned it, so I will be there.
We got a question when it came to that scale. Shane Flynn Outdoors says, "Where do I get said scale?"
I cannot answer that because the owner of Cat, he provided the scales. I want to believe they're AMG, but Brian, where did you get yours?
Mine are Pro Series scales, and you have to actually. They have a website, and they're $500 on the website for the Pro Series scales. And then I think it's like another $500 if you want the board to go with it, which is the digital readout board that you can have behind you. And so they have many little parts that you can buy. But yeah, they're Pro Series scales, if I remember correctly. I'd have to.
I'm actually looking at mine right now. Give me a second.
Mine are actually still in the back of my car. Mine are outside too because I got to get them inside from a tournament from a weekend.
PTS tournament. Yep. Tournamentscales.com.
Yep.
Hey guys.
Tournamentscales.com.
Yep. Tournamentscales.com. We have the digital board for ours, which works amazing for us.
And that's going to be the best ones you can. Those are ones. I mean, if you're really going to run a tournament series and you want to run one right, go ahead and buy it and invest in it now. I mean, I know Cat's got a lot of those scales. They probably got a couple dozen of them things, but I mean, it's the future and the way to go.
Hey guys, I hate to be rude. I got to jump. We got a little situation. The boss lady is calling for me. The kids came out. Seems the rubber bands have popped. So I hate to be rude, guys, and leave like
You're
that.
fine.
But
you're fine.
Thank you, guys. But my opinion is this, guys. At the end of the day, man, what's going on with Major League and James Watson and everything, it's not going to change the platform of what we're trying to do. You guys and me, and what I'm trying to do with my division under Cat. But free James Watson. I got to say that before I go. Free James Watson. So, guys, thank y'all for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Have a great night.
See ya.
Y'all do the same.
Well, that's a great segue.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on? I turned on my. I was trying to have a good Easter with my family, and all hell broke loose. So
it did.
Set the scene.
Yeah, I mean, it really did. I mean, for you guys who have kind of followed this a little bit, Watson was on the Zaldane show. It was actually a pretty good show. And I didn't really catch too many vibes from that. He's pretty, laid back. But then he was on a Luke Duncan show. And I love Luke Duncan. We're friends. No issues. And then, I think that's where he opened up his mouth the first time. And they fined him, I think was the $5,000 or $10,000. They fined him the first time. And then during the Classic, Duncan always does a party at one of the local bars or something like that. And he was on there. And if you guys watched it, I watched it because, like I said, I'm a Duncan fan. But about halfway through it, the hat starts flying, the alcohol starts flying, and the chatter becomes, the hat, fish boat docks. I mean, that's where we know what it means. I mean, I don't want to say it on here because I still get press releases from them. I'm still, a part of the whole media aspect of it. But I mean, I don't think people were happy. And I've heard from some of the anglers themselves, and that they're not happy with the direction things are going. And we knew after last year that was that's the way it was last year when we first did our show together. No one was happy with the direction.
And I've been hearing about this, free James Watson, everything's in the wrong. But can we set to make sure that we have some facts before we go into basically opinions versus facts? What basically happened was he said some things that broke rules, which were in the contract that he signed, correct?
Right.
About what he's allowed to say?
Right. If you guys go right now to the basscast.com, it's called Unbelievable Drama Unfolds, Watson's Major League Fishing Disqualification. And, it's rule number 7. I actually put the rule in the story, sportsmanship. And I put ABC, I think the first 3 parts to it. And, this is kind of hard because Boyd fishes his own series. And so he made a comment against an angler. And then he made a comment against the tournament series itself. And that's just, I don't know. We're 100% believers that tournament directors should not fish their own tournament series. They should be a non-biased person when it comes to all of this.
How much of this was Watson looking to pick a fight? Just because it does create a great social media thing, which he's going to financially do fantastic from this. This happened actually in the gaming world for some thoughts here, where in the latest rendition of Justice League, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, they execute Batman. And they do it on purpose because they knew it would create a ton of hate. And they ended up selling some games because their thought was, even though this will create negative publicity, it's the old adage, any publicity is good publicity.
Well, guys, smart. The hats have been flying off the shelves.
Yep.
And they are, he said it during the show with, Luke Duncan the other night that he was sold out. And they were ordering more. So, I'm surprised they're letting him back at all or giving him the opportunity in 2026 to come back. But that might have been in the contract as well. If you break a rule, you have to be gone for X amount of time, and it couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But yes, we all know James Watson's going to come out big time on this. And, between the guys, he don't need the money. James does not need the money. He manages, I think he told me at Red Crest, it's over 100 houses that he gets a contract for managing. He sold like some properties and he's building like a $3 million house.
It's arguing between millionaires.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I got Randy in the chat. He kind of I think he hits on the head here. Randy is like, yeah, just a publicity stunt, 100%. You see this when Elon Musk says something and Tesla stock goes up or down. Yeah. It's the same thing. And I don't know. It doesn't feel organic to me, and I think it's because I'm a jaded person at this point with all the social media stunts and stuff, and the way this has happened. And then you look at he's sold out of his hats, and he's already branded it so quickly, and it's just, I don't know. There's just something about it that doesn't seem right.
I agree with you. I agree 110% because, we brought up the whole conversation about social media earlier. You could hire somebody just to keep up with this shit. You really could. With all the crap that's going on, and it's just slowly little pieces here, little pieces there, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's now all in our face. But it's something happened that we might never know that brought us to this point.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to it because the comment sections are just so fun, hot, spicy. But I feel like a lot of it is a good pulse of where people are when it comes to some of this stuff. And let me see if I'll post this comment, guys, after the fact, once I blur out the guy's name. But I thought this was a really good one, so I'll just read this one off here for you guys. When Boyd decided to start the MLF, the intent, like it or not, was to run bass out of the industry. Strike one. In 2018, when Boyd Duckett decided to start reinventing the rules and tournament framework that they considered to be their differentiator from their inception and change and improve the fishing, that was strike two. And now with all the contest turmoil, it continues to happen. So everything is about Boyd Duckett, and it's not about the BPT anymore. It's about the guy. And again, if you guys follow sports, the striking similarities between this and Roger Goodell is fascinating to me.
Yes.
Who signs Boyd's checks?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it really is pretty crazy how, when you're the face of the company, that's what happens. I mean, they don't come looking for you. They come looking for someone else when that goes down.
Yeah, and it was said the reason Goodell is in the position he is it was that bridge gap between the owners and the fan base. And Goodell was set up to take the slings and arrows. And you guys can quickly Google search that Bass Pro Shop, Johnny Morris owns 50% of this organization. The Outdoor Channel is the other 50%. And so I think we've talked about this online too before. It's like, why does Johnny let this happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question why he's letting this continue. I mean, like you just said though earlier, I mean, besides the controversy, all controversy is good and or bad. And, it's bringing, whether you like it or not, it's kind of tarnishing the name a little bit, but it's bringing more recognition to the sport and to Major League Fishing brand as a whole. But, that was, I was kind of upset with the Kevin Van Dam when he made his announcement that he was going to be on another TV show. We were really hoping that Kevin Van Dam was going to be the new face of Major League Fishing. Yeah. And that Boyd was, and that not Boyd, but that Johnny Morris is going to step in and say, hey, this has gone long enough. It's time for you to go. You're either going to fish or be the director, and we think you are a better fisherman than a director.
But I guess the reason that he's letting this happen is because this person is taking the slings and arrows for him and is distracting from what's really going on. Because you're not going to talk about White River Marina buying everything up. You're not talking about the monopolization of the whole industry. You're talking about what did Boyd do this time? It's a great corporate tactic, honestly, because you're going to need somebody to be the head of it. And, everyone knows MMA, who runs MMA. It's the same thing. Yeah. Someone mentioned the WWE. You have the guy that's up that takes the slings and arrows from corporate.
And now MMA owns WWE, so...
Yeah, weird world we have here, don't we?
Yes, it is. See. Everybody's being bought out and bought up.
We got Augie Boy. Pro bass fishing is like one of those Real Housewife shows. It's 100% true. I love that. You just want a gift card to Jake's Bait and Tackle. That's awesome. Perfectly awesome. Christopher, do you think it's a publicity stunt on both sides, like the WWE? I think a lot of that happens. Yes.
I don't know if it's a publicity stunt or not, because for you guys on the other side or don't see the other side, there's been lots of rumors of a lot of stuff going down, and I think it's all just come to a head. And it's burning. You guys saw Thomas's little logo. I mean, it's on fire. I mean, that's what's really going on, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that we don't know. None of us will ever know. It's hearsay. I mean, until you got the paperwork, Judge Judy tells you that. But I mean, you kind of wonder. I mean, you're hearing anglers not being paid. I mean, you're hearing so much stuff that, anglers being paid late. I mean, we don't know how they do business. And until one of us are in the inside, we really have no clue.
And to your question earlier, Christopher, which I think is interesting about like publicity stunt. After watching Brian New's video and comparing and contrasting that with Watson's first press release of the thing, one does seem more authentic than the other. I'll let you decide which one it is. And so,
yes,
like, you know what I mean? Like, and again, and for the people in the comment section, I wasn't busting on Brian New. My thing was more of like what his logic was, because that's very interesting to think that blowing out one bed would be that big of an advantage. That's where I was kind of lost. I don't know. There's a lot of turmoil in the fishing industry. We've talked about this a ton. I think there's another shoe that's going to drop when it comes to money. And I think that's why you're seeing so much monopolization within the industry right now. And it's people are nervous. People are jittery. I can't wait for ICAST this year to hopefully get some more juice about what's happening behind the scenes, because I think there's something happening.
Yeah, because at ICAST, people will be talking.
Yeah.
Big freaking time, because that's when we're all together and we don't have the public. And, you know, a lot of people are talking about what's going down. You know, at the end of the day, I think I would be really scared if I was Major League Fishing right now.
Why?
Because if Watson decides to take them to court and starts making allegations, the books get opened and everybody gets to see what's going on in Major League Fishing. You know, Danielle watches enough court TV that I watch upstairs and with her that, you know, they tell them straight up, if you don't want your name dragged through the mud, you just pay whatever that person wants and you keep on going.
Yeah, like I agree with you. Because Disney had this case a while ago, but they won't let it go there because BPT has more money to pay Watson off. I don't think Watson has enough money to go into litigation unless somebody backs him. So I think it would be a stinker headline, but unless somebody backs him to go through the whole court thing, because that's a ton of money. I don't know if it ever gets to that point, though. Sadly.
Yeah, I don't think it. I hope it doesn't get to that point either. But I mean, like you said, I mean, we just so many more questions. The question is, I guess, I wish one of your listeners could, you know, that is able to keep up a hell of a lot more than I am, because there's so much going on these days, that how we got to this point. I mean, what was the firecracker that started it all to get to us to where we are now is the real true question, besides just him blabbering on a couple different podcast shows.
It's also happened when the bilge came on too, the Trade Sound Day one, that really kind of, I think there's different podcasts out there. Some are more just entertaining, some more are like education. And I feel like if you had to close your eyes and say 3 words that describe the Zaldane podcast, it was more of like trying to break news within the industry and be the edgy one. And it just seems in general, a lot of those episodes are about like trying to get underneath the belly of the beast, for better or worse, because I don't know, like, is the thought there that that's just to get sponsors?
I don't know. I mean, they've got sponsors. I mean, Battleborn Battery sponsors their show. I mean, that's their title sponsor for the Village podcast. But you are right about that, though. I never really thought about that, because I'm a big Zaldane fan. And, you know, I love his wife, Trait. I mean, she's the hard hitter. I mean, that thing right there, she's a firecracker. She don't mind that. You know, she says, I ain't going to skin the game, and I'm going to ask all the questions I want. So, but you think you're right, because if you go back and listen to all their shows, it really is to get the dirt.
And it's funny because she said, like, I don't have any skin in the game. It's like, well, that's a lie, because if you do something, it'll affect your husband.
Correct.
So it's like, it's a weird, I don't know. But you're right. The industry right now is in absolute turmoil. And when we say about, well, what's going to happen with BPT, it's not going to die. And I think this is something, I think it is such a big juggernaut. It'll get bought out. But the idea, like, tomorrow BFLs don't exist anymore.
No.
You know what I mean? I see that in the comment section a lot.
Someone asked me the question. I was supposed to be on another show later tonight, but I'm glad I got moved. But, you know, they asked me this question. So what happened if they closed today? I said, well, it'd just be like when Toys R Us went out of business. Toys R Us went out of business. They liquidated everything. They sold all the weigh tanks. They sold all the scales, paid off all their debt. And then someone bought the name. And someone else bought Toys R Us and opened it up as an online store. And now they're coming back with stores. Someone else will do the same thing with Major League Fishing and you know, Major League Fishing and its whole entire organization. Someone will let them burn, sell it all, and buy it back for pennies on the dollar. And that's a great thought right here. What do you think if Mr. Bass Pro Shop himself is letting it burn? Because he knows at the end of the day, he would be able to pick it up for pennies on the dollar.
He potentially could. I mean,
again, like you said, he owns 50%. Why not getting the other 50?
And that's what's so weird is the BPT has more money than Bass. And I mean by that, by like the backers. Like he has Bass Pro Shop backing that tour versus the Bassmasters thing. So I just want to get into Johnny Morse's head about what is the 3D game that you're playing right here with everything. Because the BFL infrastructure in the grassroots, the whole reason Major League Fishing bought them is because it had such a solid business plan that you could just plug and chug and do it. And
Right.
again, like I go back to comment section saying like tomorrow, like it'll all be gone. It's like, I really think, like you said, a private equity firm will come in, buy, and just keep the BFLs running because it's a system that's in place. You don't have to start from scratch.
No. And, that was the whole conversation before they bought FLW was, the first year, everything, they ran the Bass Pro Series. And then, second year, they were talking about a feeder system, and they needed that.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a feeder system for the college kids. And then, like you said, the local, and then, now we got the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals, the Toyota Series. I'm trying to think of all the daggone series people. So, I mean, they didn't have all that they needed. And so they borrowed some money from daddy, and here we are. I mean, Bass Pro Shop, I ain't going to say they pay for it. I don't know. But they borrowed some money, and they bought it. I mean, I don't see where Boyd's got this type of money. He ain't won much. He ain't won a whole lot of damn tournaments over the last few years. He won a classic, maybe a decade ago, 2 decades ago? I mean.
But Boyd is not fun bankrolling this thing. And I think it's such a weird thing. The cult of personality around Boyd, that Boyd's doing all this stuff like he's the boogeyman. And it's like, he's not the main puppet master, everyone.
No,
really
he definitely is not. And I don't know enough about Boyd's business. He came out with rods, Ducket rods. The rods did pretty well. I mean, I was there when they came out. I mean, I was at the shows when they came out, and they sold off the racks. People carrying them out like they're carrying candy. But I mean, I don't know his real business experience, and I don't really know. Dang, I had his name. The other one that's part of it. I mean, Kevin. I know KVD is part of Major League Fishing, and Gary Klein. There it is. Klein's part of it. And so I don't know really if Klein's the businessman behind it all, and he's just letting Boyd take the fall, and it's a lot of puppets in this game.
And something I wanted to ask you earlier, we were on the topic. It is interesting when you just take a step back to see the cult of personality around Bass versus MLF, where if MLF sneezes, there is 10,000 people there ready to burn them down. Anything Bass does, it's never Bass's fault. It's something else's fault. And then Bass's ability to just kill a story, it's weird. And this is, I think, one of the issues that made they created MLF. If you guys don't understand this, like, they created their own worst enemy with the split way back when. And again, this story with Brandon knew it was hard for me to find the damn thing. It was like they just killed it.
Yes.
What is with their PR? Because it's almost like at the other end of the spectrum compared to MLF.
It really is. You brought that up. First of all, I don't, okay, let's go back to Bass, like original Bass. I mean, at first, they caught fish, they killed them. Then, later on, years later, you guys all saw the history of Bass on Fox. I mean, it was there. And then, they got into the conservation part, catch and release. They did the weigh-in, catch and release. And I think just the sport as a whole, because you got to think, bass fishing's not a poor man's sport.
Mm-mm.
And there's a lot of guys in their 40s to 60 years old, and I say even 65, who grew up in that side of it. You know what I'm saying? And now we're asking them to change. We're going to do differently. We're going to do this. And I think a lot of them just didn't like the change. They didn't like the format. They didn't like how it was handled. They didn't like every fish counted. They didn't like the Dink Fest, as it became called. I mean, it became Dink Fest like the first year. I mean, some of the tournaments, as long as they weighed a pound. And then they went to some lakes where they had to be at least 2 pounds, and then every fish counted. But we brought this up, and I think we did. When they went to 5 fish from every fish counted, you saw a few different winners that you hadn't seen in the past win some of these events.
I'm so glad you teed that up.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like you kind of wonder. I'm not gonna say it's no skill, but damn, every fish counts. I mean, the's no real skill.
It's a
You
different
get
type
in a
of skill.
I mean, just like the Red Crest Cup, he got into a spool. He got into one location. He just went back and like netted fish all day long. I mean, and won. I mean,
it's a different type of skill, because I truly believe the best angler in the world is one that can win on both sides. And you saw so many great anglers that couldn't catch 5 but could catch multiple, and you had some guys that could catch every fish but can't catch just 5. So it was really interesting when you saw anglers bounce back and forth to see which ones. It doesn't matter. You put them on a lake, it's 1,000 fish or 5, they'll kick your butt. That is fascinating, because that's a National League and American League baseball, I think, where it doesn't matter. But what you hit on, which is interesting, is the people that were complaining weren't necessarily the best ones. They were the ones that sucked at the format. And then you look at the Bassmaster Classic this year, and everyone that's bitching are the ones that suck at forward-facing sonar, generally speaking. Yes. And so it just seems like that's the kind of where we're at, where the people that really didn't like where MLF was going, and in the beginning, guys, and there's other drama there too, were the ones that really sucked with the change in the format. And they're the same ones in the same spirit that are getting up there complaining about what forward-facing sonar is doing to the sport.
I was gonna look it up, but I don't have time. But the Zaldanes had someone on a couple weeks ago, and you know, he was one of the anglers that was cut from Major League Fishing this year, and he came out and just said the format did not work for his style of fishing, and it don't work for everybody's. And I mean, those are the ones that you see are getting cut off the bottom pretty much. The style is not their style. And a lot of these anglers are the 5-fish tournament series anglers that started fishing Bassmaster, who left and went over to Major League Fishing.
I 100% agree with that. We got Chris Sherwood in the comment section. You really don't hear John Cox saying anything bad about forward-facing sonar. Love that guy. No, but he just wants to fish, and he's willing to come out there and just fish any tournament organization. And the one thing that he said, which really I thought was interesting, was talking about with Bassmasters, the way their schedule sets up, it interferes with a lot of different organizations. And the one perk about the MLF is that you have the Tackle Warehouse Tour and the BPT. Both you can win $100,000, and they don't interfere with each other. So if you're a John Cox type, you can fish more tournaments. That's interesting, because that is true from the Bassmaster side of things. The Opens don't pay much at all.
No, the Opens are just there to get you into the elites.
Now, the thing I wanted to end
or
the show,
get you into the Classic. Sorry.
Yeah, or get into the Classic.
Yeah,
the other thing I wanted to talk about in the show is just the silent one. I think we talked about this last time. They're quiet. They do their own thing. They let the other 2 kids kill each other. What do you think they fit into this whole thing? Because they're really...
John Cox has already threw out an invitation to, while we're on the John Cox thing. Guys, John Cox is a shallow water angler, and I interviewed him a year ago, and he said he had forward-facing sonar, and guess where it was? It was in his truck. It wasn't even on his boat yet. But John's already give a welcome to our boy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, guys, as long as they keep doing what they're doing, they've got a great organization. The NPFL is what we're talking about, everybody. I love the NPFL. I love the guys over there. I got to meet one of the NPFL members at the Red Crest. But, you know, Watson's got a home there if he wants to go in 2025. Because, John, like I said, the invitation is there. But I think they're going to come out on top. I really do. I think just keep quiet.
Yep.
Just
stay out.
Just stay out. Pay your bills. Let it burn, and see what the hell happens. Burn, baby, burn. Remember that old saying? Burn, baby, burn.
It is, and I just love everything where they're, because this was, I remember when Ike Nelly, when his podcast first got started. And he's like, when does the FLW and Bassmaster come to table and they figure things out? And it was like, they never will. And NPFL is like, you know what? We will. So you guys set your schedules. We'll work around everyone's schedules. We're going to give, this is a cool thing in the industry. It's called customer service. We're going to give the customer what he wants. And holy shit, it works. Like it's, I don't know. It's such a weird revolutionary concept where anglers have been complaining since the FLW Bassmaster debacles of like, just figure out your schedules, and we would like to fish both. neither one wanted to do that. And NPFL basically was like, we'll do that for you. And it's crazy.
Because if they're not fishing, they're not making money, and they're not making money for their sponsors. And that's what it's all about. And that's why we should play nice, daggone it.
Yeah.
Because if I go to Thomas fishing the DMV and say, hey, Thomas, I'm fishing 2 series this year, even if I'm fishing out of a kayak, I'm going to be at X amount of events in front of X amount of people, and this is what I want for my ad. I mean, you get a better chance the more publicity this person, John Cox, is, or, there's a couple different anglers that fish different series, and some of them just don't need the money. But at the same time, it's, that's where it's at. It's how you make it.
Brian, we covered so much tonight. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that we have to cover? And I want to make sure you plug away what you got coming up.
Nah, man, everything is good here, guys. Just head on over and follow the basscast.com. Like I said, I wrote a story the other night about the Watson, my thoughts and my take on it. It's been blowing up. I still got comments coming across the board right now. Basscast Radio, guys, we record an episode every Wednesday night and drop it on Thursday. So love for you guys to tune in and check that out, and appreciate those who are listening on all your podcast networks or either on YouTube. April the 27th is our next Basscast Tournament Series event. We had a great turnout yesterday, Thomas. We had 41 boats show up on Smith Mountain Lake. Not yesterday, I apologize, on Saturday. It's Monday. Good gosh, yesterday was Easter. But for an Easter weekend, we appreciate everyone for coming out and fishing with us. And like I said, our next one is April the 27th. But I'll be at the BFL on Smith Mountain Lake Saturday. And I'd love to see you all and say hi and kick a tire. And let's talk some bass fishing, because my phone's been blowing up. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. I mean, people getting my thoughts and my takes. And, we'll see what happens. I can't say but so much, because we're all in the industry and it's small.
Yeah. And guys, that's why I'm trying to stay as neutral as possible to where I can say what I want to say, because I'm actually supported by you Patreon members. I don't have anybody there, but I'm not going to talk out of turn either. I want to make sure there's facts given there with everything.
Yes,
and
100%.
Not just the drama, because there's enough people there. And it comes down to contracts too. And even Watson kind of prefaced that with what he said there at the beginning. He's like, oh, I don't want people to feel bad for me. It's like, if you broke a contract, you broke a contract, whether people want to know that or not. Like, just don't sign shit. I mean, honestly.
When you have a contract, even at your damn basic job, guys, when you fill out that resume, when you fill out that application, you put it in and they make you sign some paperwork at McDonald's.
Yeah.
You're doing a contract. I mean, you're not supposed to talk bad about the company, whether you like them or not. I mean, but hey, it's a different story. We've gotten into a world now, and like you just said, you brought up earlier, TikTok, Facebook, we're all recording, we can all this, and and now everybody's feeling sorry for everybody and blah 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 blah, and it's spilling over into crap we really don't want to see it at.
I agree. I 100% agree with you. And then guys, yeah, absolutely. Please give him a follow. Link in the episode description when this thing gets re-uploaded tomorrow. And then I guess I'll be back on probably the Basscast at some point. We'll do our quarterly review of all the seasons and stuff, because there's so many fishing tournaments going on right now. It's insane.
Yes, the fishing season has begun here, guys, and it's only getting better. I think Smith Mountain Lake's in the mid 50s. If you haven't checked out our weather around the globe, what's it called? I can't remember. Daggone it. But it's weather 24/7. That's what it is. Update 24/7. We got all the information that you need to know about Smith Mountain Lake on our website, and you guys can go there before the tournament this weekend and see the water level, the water temperatures. There's like 6 different water temperatures throughout the lake. So I mean, the lake's on fire, and we're hoping to see that 10-pounder in 2024 come across the Basscast tournament scales.
It's going to happen. I think a 10-pounder is going to be dropping there at Smith at some point. They're in there. It's just got to have one hook up with it,
Yeah.
Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. We got more episodes coming this week. And then next week for Monday Night Live, we will have members of the Black Bass Advisory Board. We have our quarterly meeting early Monday. And then as soon as that meeting's over, I'm going to be on to talk about what new Maryland laws are coming down the pike for bass fishermen. As always, like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye.
You're listening to Fishing the DMV. with your hosts, Thomas Aarons and Jared Mounts. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.